Hello and welcome to Food Freedom Milwaukee Radio. This is Quinn Wilder. You're listening to WXRWLP Milwaukee 104.1 FM at River West Radio. So this episode of Food Freedom Milwaukee Radio, we are hoping to have a guest roll in here shortly after, I think, just getting done teaching, probably as we speak. So our special guest should be on the way shortly. And in the meantime, I'm going to just do a little bit of updating, things going on with Food Freedom Milwaukee over the last couple weeks, and maybe looking ahead to the next couple weeks. We have had a really great start to our front yard native garden initiative, where we're offering free front yard gardens in River West. This is part of our Eco River West initiative, which is kind of mimicking the, I guess now defunct, hopefully temporarily defunct, citywide city eco neighborhood initiative. When one of the last things that they've been working on was with the Harambe neighborhood. So there's a Eco Harambe committee meeting, they've had a lot of meetings and done a whole lot of work. And one of the ideas that came up from there that coincides with some things going on the beer line, specifically, in this case, the beer line, just as it continues northwest from Holton I believe at Townsend, is this idea of a pollinator corridor. So there are at least a couple native garden projects that are happening or are being planned around that part of the beer line, close to Kumba. And one is the butterfly garden that's right off Holton there. There's talk about adding some other native plant gardens in the area, or just enhancing the native ground cover that we see in some of the native shrubs and trees, and also getting rid of invasives to help the pollinators in basically treating the beer line trail as a pollinator corridor. And so trying to continue to add places, refuge and habitat and food for pollinators through River West. Not really trying to create a corridor following the beer line yet, but just looking for anybody in River West that would like to have a native prairie garden somewhere in their front yard. And we started last year with about 3, and now we are going through a batch of 5. A handful of people volunteered to help, and a handful of people said they would like a garden. And so we started the process by with the volunteers, going to each front yard, meeting with the homeowner, talking about where the garden could go, and beginning to make a plan for prepping the ground, which usually involves something called solarizing or smothering. And solarizing is using a black tarp and tucking it in to kill everything under the area, to get it ready for native plants and their roots to be able to take hold. And then the other smothering method is more common, and this is what you do typically when you don't have invasive plants, especially pernicious ones, growing on the site. Then you can smother, and if it's just grass, you could smother it with maybe a couple layers of cardboard and a few inches of wood chips. You might only need to do that for 4 to 6 weeks. Before you could then plant right through with plugs or with native plant seedlings. And that's what we're going to be doing for most of our sites. A lot of our sites are shade or partial shade, I should say. And so we'll be looking for, we're going to have some really fun, exciting design meetings where we'll get together and look at each site with kind of a drawing of that site and start to map out what plants would be ideal for that site, what plants could we use to form and mimic a natural plant community, so that the roots stabilize the grass, and they can kind of compete with each other, so that no one plant is able to totally take over, so that the certain plants that grow tall don't just flop over, because we have, grasses installed around them that kind of strengthen the ground and the soil with their roots, and add strength for other plants to be able to thrive. That's kind of some of the ideas that I've been learning about design from a handful of the books that we have in the Food Freedom Library, which are available for anyone to come check out. And I was just at the farm, because really all of this hinges on what is in our nursery and what kind of plants are we going to have available. And I'm really excited to report that, this is the first year that we did seed stratification. We did winter sowing, where we put the seeds in pots of dirt, and let them sit outside all winter, and then watch to see what comes up. So I went out to the UW Extension farm and took notes on everything I saw coming up in the pots, and it looks like we have just about 70 species happening already. And our guest is here. Come on in. So I'm really excited about that, and I want to talk about some of those species at some point. But hey, we'll get you started here with your headphones. Oh, excuse me. And Mike, I think the mic is on. You're all set. So I really only know you as the Gardenista, and I haven't told anybody who was going to be here yet, but I don't know your real name. So could you introduce yourself?
My name's Jeanette Goldman Mercado, and I started this business called Gardenista MKE. This is my third summer.
Third summer, awesome. And so I've seen some amazing pictures of you, like the before and after kind of pictures. So you have been taking clients with yards that maybe don't have much of anything going on in some of these cases. It seems like what I saw in the pictures. And can you tell me what kind of things are clients asking you for, and then what do you end up doing? What kind of things do you end up doing and installing in yards?
So a lot of clients last summer reached out to me because they lost control of their garden, basically, and you couldn't even see the sidewalk, and it was kind of like they thought it was a lost cause. And they called me, they reached out to me and said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "Absolutely, I can help you." And so
Oh, whoops. Oh, there we
the
go.
first steps are always to get rid of the super invasive species, and then I keep the friendly native plants, but also it's funny, with my experience, I kind of have like a rating scale of invasive plants, like which ones I think are actually kind of okay to keep around, and the ones that I definitely want to get rid of.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing.
I've seen scales like this. Did you kind of make your own, or how did you build this scale?
I made it my own.
Yeah, just based on your own experience?
Yeah. So, for example, this year, the garden I was working on all last summer, it's coming back great. I just left violets and dandelions and grass growing there, some goldenrod. And so this spring, the violets are flourishing and the grass is there. So that's great. And then I helped that client. We're going to get the Victory Garden Initiative raised bed there.
Oh, yeah.
So I was working on that, and then I'm going to plant a whole bunch of different pollinator-friendly native species in her garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one you're thinking of, how much space is there?
It's a really big River West backyard, so it's hard for me to give measurements. I'm still working on that.
I can picture what you would call a pretty big size for a River West backyard.
Yes.
Does it go back pretty far, or is it pretty wide?
Yeah, it's wide and long, and like the potential is just amazing.
Wow. Okay.
It's like a clean, it's
a blank slate.
So exciting for me and exciting for my client, because she had lost hope for years, And so now she can look in her backyard and see actually things growing where they're supposed to. And
Right.
yeah, it's really, really nice.
So what percentage of the yard is going to be native plants?
I'm going to try for everything that's not the
Really?
vegetables.
Just
to
about
try
all
to,
of it, except for
yes,
that bed, the one
right.
bed. Okay.
So she's got like comfrey growing in back there.
Ooh, that
so
can spread a lot.
It spreads a lot, but I was telling her that, you can keep this stuff under control and then it's beneficial, but if it's not under control, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I was going to help her. I'm going to move some of the comfrey near the raised bed and then move some of the chives over there. She's got chives growing there and the rhubarb, and so to try to avoid the enemy number one these days, which is bellflower.
Yeah. I think
So
I was just told I've got a bunch of bellflower that's now coming up after disturbing a lot of the dormant seed bed. So I'm going to be dealing with some bellflower, which is pretty rough.
Yeah, it's not as bad. I mean, once you get the technique down, it's just
getting
about
the roots
getting
out
those
and
roots
everything.
out. Yeah. I told them it's the only way, and I was successful last summer. That's what I did in my clients' places, and I came back and it's barely growing back. So
wow. So what
really
is the technique? It has to do with following the root down.
You have
right?
to get. I just use my shovel. I get down in like 8 inches in there, and I have my little stool, and I just sit there and just shake out the roots and keep the dirt, and then if there's like a dandelion growing by there or a violet, I keep those guys because those guys are my invasive friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's actually, I think it was a theory I had last year, and my theory is being proven to be correct.
That if you just dig down deep and get all the roots, if you can figure out how to do that, sounds like you did, then you got it. It's not coming back.
Right.
Yeah, it's just about, I've gone through one process. It was at VGI in the front with some native plant experts, and we were literally just digging down and turning the dirt over and then looking through for those little white root things, that
but
can turn
like
into.
This big.
Yeah. But any little white root bit can turn into a plant again if you don't get it out of there.
Exactly.
And I think so far so good in the front of VGI on the west side. So far it's like it's been working, and things went in last year and they might have even gone in the year before. So there's a lot more starting to come up now there. But it's been neat seeing that process. So how did you start learning about native plants, and have you always been native plant focused with your gardening?
Well, I had a lot of native plants in my garden, and then I really am interested in the environment. Always been an environmental activist since like I was really young, like 13 years old.
Right.
Before people were thinking about that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And then
how did you get into that so young?
I mean, it's from being raised with my family, my mom and dad. We always had a garden. We always had a yard. We lived right by. I grew up in Cudahy, and so I was always outside, going to the pond or going to the lake, and so I've always just really been connected with nature. And then, like, I was a 7th grader. I remember the day we were driving home from Indiana visiting our relatives, and we were going through Gary, Indiana. And, the pollution was really bad back then. And I said to my family, I was like, when I grow up, I want to be an environmental lawyer. And so ever since that, like, it kind of like just started being more interested in that. And I remember in 8th grade, I went to the first Earth Day event. And then, so I'm old, I'll be 50 this year. So I've been around for a while.
You're just a youngin'.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So cool. That happened to me too. My parents were pretty into the environment, and so at a young age, I was really taught, partly just from my parents, but also my dad and I were part of this thing that really learned about Native American culture and learned about how so much of Native American culture is about being connected to nature and taking care of it. And so I think that's kind of really what got me from the time I was a kid, about just the experience of feeling connected to nature and feeling like you understand what you're seeing and the land you're walking on, and you're able to tell kind of like how it's doing and what it needs. and also what it can give to you, right? And how you can take care of it. That's just been an ethic my whole life as well. So maybe that's why we're both here.
Yeah, I think so.
In River West doing urban gardening and restoration.
Yeah, and so just like for me, this job is really trying to, recoup this land that's so useful and valuable in all these people's backyards and front yards, because I think people forget that even though we're in this urban setting in the city where there's dirt, there's so much potential, and we still are living with all our, animal plant friends. So we just need to make as much.
Wherever there's dirt, wherever there's earth, wherever there's soil, especially whenever there's land that's really not being put to ecological service, right? So lawn, for example, is just potential.
Yes.
Lawn is not doing anything unless it's native grasses, right? It's not doing anything for insects.
No.
It's kind of like a dead zone and ecologically, right? So so ever since I started getting into this and reading some of these books and hearing some of these people talk, I've started to look at things differently. I look anywhere in an urban landscape, and just about anywhere you look, it's ecologically dead space that could be turned over to become an oasis and part of a pollinator corridor that we need and that pollinators need, right?
Right.
So what would happen if, let's say, a very huge percentage, like 80% of River West yards, front and back, became native gardens? At least, 80% of them or something. Can you imagine the impact that would have on pollinators?
It'd be so amazing. Like just seeing, so there's so many advantages to planting native plants here in Milwaukee. One is like once you plant those plants, you 2 years you have a flourishing pollinator garden where you're not going to have to worry a lot about the invasive species coming in, because those are really strong plants, and then
a good native plant community can block that out,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. And then once those pollinators start coming back, you'll see the birds and you'll see other animals you might not have expected to see. But like even in my own backyard, because we moved spaces, and so now our space is more sunny, so we've only been there for like this is our 4th summer there, and like last year was just like the most amazing year for our garden, and I saw so many pollinators
just
in there.
In your backyard?
Yeah, in just my little space.
You saw a lot of new pollinators?
Yes.
How much space would you say this is?
Even dragonflies.
Yeah, I was going to say, certainly butterflies, moths. You might see a lot of really cool looking caterpillars, and then hummingbirds.
Yep.
Other kinds of birds.
Oh, lots of birds.
What are some of the new things that, like, maybe you weren't seeing before? You got the native garden going.
Just a lot. All the different species of bees and flies and things like that.
A lot of the native bees.
Yes. Which is, and then the more you learn, the more you see, right?
Right.
Like the more you know, the more you see, which is always so amazing.
Yeah. So you start to be able to distinguish the different kinds of bees that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
It's really exciting.
I want to do so. We've got Food Freedom has got this thing where we're offering anyone in River West can get a free front yard native garden installation with a crew of volunteers that we have. And we've we did, I think, 3 last year, and we've got 5 that are on the way right now.
Wow, that's great.
So, what we could do is team up, because we're only able to do, like we're saying, about 1 to 200 square feet and somewhere in the front yard. But imagine somebody wants some help continuing. They want to add and do some more in their backyard, or maybe extend the front yard. That's where you could come in.
Yeah, I'm happy to help. I'm here to, this is, obviously my job, my summer job, because I'm a teacher, everyone. I'm a full-time MPS teacher.
Oh, what do you
teach? My
teach?
summer job. Yeah, I teach ESL to K-5 through 3rd grade. They're all refugee students from Afghanistan, Africa.
Wow. Where's that? What
Rohingya.
part of?
There are a lot of the students come from Tanzania, the largest refugee camp in Africa. But those children, a lot of them came from the Congo.
Wow.
originally.
Yeah, right. And so they're coming into MPS, and then
Mhm.
where are you exactly?
I'm at the Milwaukee Academy of Chinese Language on
Oh,
24th in
okay.
Wisconsin. Yeah.
So you end up getting a bunch of non-English speaking students from all over, including Africa,
Yes.
at the School for Chinese Language.
Well, the Chinese language
Or it's
part is
Asian, did
it.
you say?
It's yeah. So they learn Chinese. All the students get Chinese lessons
Oh,
like
okay.
once or twice a week. At this point, it
Huh.
was more immersion before,
Uh-huh.
but it's kind of like trickled down, and but they keep the name.
Okay.
Yeah. But at my school, we actually set up a hydroponics garden and aquaponics set up there.
Cool.
And so I get to bring my students and see that, and
Yeah.
they love it. And it's just a really amazing way to connect with children. And then today we got to eat the lettuce that's growing, and they just love that.
That's
so
awesome. So
really
now
cool.
you're
Mhm.
another one. I keep hearing about us. There's a few schools, and you don't really hear about it very easily. You have
Yeah.
to just know someone that works in the school where there's hydroponic growing going on.
Yeah.
And in one case, it was that I heard about most recently, it was really, I think it was the after school that was kind of running maintaining it. And it was usually just a few kids and one adult that knows how to do it and has learned how to do it. Adding the fertilizer to the water and
Right.
that kind of thing. I don't know too much about it, but I know it's once you get it going, it's not very difficult.
No.
And you can just be constantly producing lettuce, for
Yeah.
example. And man, what a great thing for kids to be able to get lettuce like that. That is, it's not coming out of the ground like would be the most natural way, but you're able to grow it year round,
Yep.
which is big because we have a short growing season here. And most of it is when school is not in session,
Right.
which makes school gardening a little challenging.
Exactly.
Traditional, I still am interested. I still think there's a lot you can do,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but especially if you can get kids in the summer,
Mhm.
to continue, having a club or have it run through the after school in the summer. But man, with hydroponics, this just seems like such a no-brainer to at least have a nice size hydroponic tower and have some of the kids be able to eat fresh, nutritious lettuce that, doesn't wasn't picked a long time ago and doesn't come from really far away
Right.
and has not been sprayed with anything.
Right.
And actually has the full nutritional value, which, a lot of our kids just don't get food like that.
No.
And you think about growing brains and what kids have to go through every day and how much they're being challenged to learn and
Mhm.
focus and stay grounded, and having enough trouble with that already. If they're not having good nutrition, that makes it even worse. And
Right.
if they are, that can totally change what I think could appear to be a bad student, one might
Right.
say, and realize actually this student is great. They just need decent nutrients,
Right. I
and maybe
mean-
they're not getting it, at home, or they didn't get it this morning. If a kid just gets a super sugary, high processed food, how are they, how is that going to affect their behavior and their ability to learn?
Right. It's not a good scenario.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I never really did the hydroponic thing before, so I'm learning too, and it's just really amazing, like how much you can produce with the right vegetables
Yeah?
in there. Yeah.
What do you grow? Is it like a tower?
We got a lot of different gardens actually. We have
Oh.
we have a tower, and then we have a couple shorter towers, and then a couple like tabletop gardens. So a lot of things are going on there actually.
Yeah, so
We
what do you
got
have besides lettuce?
cucumber.
Cucumbers?
Cucumber, tomato, radishes, marigolds, calendula, sweet potatoes, celery.
Oh, that's
yeah,
great.
onions, a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a whole lot.
And then we got bluegills too in our aquaponics
Oh, you
system.
got aquaponics going
Yeah.
on, so you have bluegills.
Yeah. It's so cool.
That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that run in the school? Who's involved and what does it take to get that much going?
I actually reached out to my principal to ask him if I could help set them up because they were in the room and
So they
nobody
already
was
had
working. They had
Somebody
everything.
donated it or something a while
Yeah,
ago.
I'm not really sure exactly how they
That's
got
usually the
it.
case. Like
Yeah.
there's some hydroponic stuff in a corner in the basement somewhere.
Yeah, it's like that exactly.
Got
So,
donated. No one figured out
yeah.
how to use it or whatever. No one
Mhm.
wanted to. Yeah.
And I was like, "Can I set this up?" And he said, "Sure. We've got extra funding. We'll pay you after school to help work with this."
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I got my coworker to help. He's from Ghana. He's the art teacher this year, and so me and him have been working on it for a while, maybe since February. But we got it all set up, and then we're gonna get the kids involved, like planting and picking and harvesting and stuff like that.
Oh, that's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where's the school located?
On 24th in Wisconsin, across from the
Oh, it's
Eagle
right
Club there. Yeah.
there. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that
It's a
sounds
really
really
cool
awesome.
building.
I'd love to check it out.
Yeah. It's got a huge campus too. They've got a bunch of fruit trees on the campus, and yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, will you give me a tour?
Yes, I will.
That sounds really great.
Yeah.
I really want to learn what are the challenges for other schools to be able to do something like this? I mean, obviously there's getting the equipment in the first place if you're talking about hydroponic stuff. If you're not, then you're just talking about where could there be some beds somewhere, and we know those could be on concrete, like above in a corner of a big parking lot that doesn't get used, for example, right?
Yep.
And then you just got to have maybe at least one teacher, it seems to me, that's into it, that's willing to bring the kids into the garden and connect their subject, whatever it is. Any subject can be connected to the garden, right?
Right.
And you can hit your Common Core standards and everything you need. There's curriculum laid out for that, for teachers that would like some help kind of linking it. But I think a lot of teachers are pretty good at taking an opportunity like a couple raised beds in a garden or a little greenhouse or something, and knowing how they can write some curriculum that will meet their standards for whatever parts of the semester that they need to get. Is that your experience, that teachers generally? Well, how much help do you think teachers need? Do you think teachers like to see kind of having like activities that connect directly to the Common Core that teachers can just slide right in?
They like that. I think that, but teachers are just so overwhelmed, and then
I've noticed that lately it's gotten really, really intense.
I meet so many people that don't have any connection with gardening and don't know anything about, like, not everyone, but so many people I talk to at my work are like, "Oh, I don't have a green thumb.
Yeah.
Everything I look at, I kill."
I've noticed that too.
It's not really that hard.
In a school, there might
guys.
be one or two teachers that actually have some experience, planting seeds and working in a garden. But yeah, it might only be one or two, right?
Yeah.
It looks like we only have, wow, that was fast. We only have about 30 seconds. I just wanted to ask you real quick if you could talk about Gardenista MKE and how it works and how people can get in touch with you.
Sure. So I've got the landscaping business called Gardenista MKE. I've got an Instagram page. You can message me via Instagram. I can come and help you with, like I said, if you have lost control of your garden, I can help you gain control. And also I can help you plant a pollinator-friendly garden. So look me up.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was quick, but it was great.
Yeah, talk a lot. I talk a lot.
No, you're supposed to.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Dang, you're welcome.
It's pretty fun, right?
Yeah, super fun. Yeah, the bellflower I got this Saturday. I was working, and
check it out. I just went to my garden where I've got the native plant nursery. It's all in these little pots where seeds were overwintering, winter sowing.
yeah,
I have everything with a check on it. I have growing in a pot in
cool.
pots. We have like 70 varieties of plants here.
So amazing. Where's that?
And maybe even a few more. The UW Extension Community Farm plots. There's on the north side. There's a garden, a community farm. So you know about the UW Extension?
I heard about that. Yeah.
And so you can get. I got two like large plots next to each other, and so it's one really like nice size. It's probably like a quarter of an acre or an eighth of an acre.
Wow.
Only, you know, it's not a ton, but it's a decent size. So
Yeah.
in the front half right now, I'm trying to have it just be a native plant nursery, and eventually I'll just start plant everything in that front half, and then in the back half will be different growing experiments. You know, so this is gonna be kind of like a test garden kind of a thing. And right now I'm growing a bunch of garlic.
Nice.
I think I'm going to. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might do some things that sort of take up more space. You know, like watermelon. I think I'm going to
Hi.
have watermelon this year.
You have to stop the stream.
Oh, whoops. Otherwise, we're still on, right?
Hi,
Otherwise you're
everybody.
still on.
Bye.
That's okay. It'll be part of the show too.